Well, the shutdown putting a damper on what is called the International Day of the Air Traffic Controller. Instead of a day to celebrate the 24/7 nature of their jobs, union leaders are now providing members with ways to survive the shutdown. They're working now, but they're not getting paid. And there are also threats from the Transportation Secretary to show up or else. To compound matters, the upcoming holiday season is fast approaching, and they may have to continue working without getting a paycheck. President of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association, Nick Daniels, joins us now. And Nick, Maryland's Governor Wes Moore saying over the weekend that some people are working and not getting paid, and others are not working and getting paid. How is that sitting with your members?
Yeah, good afternoon. NACA advocates for every accepted employee, every federal employee that's out there to be paid no matter what the circumstance, no matter what the shutdown. And we're ensuring that our message is loud and clear. There's one way to do it, and that's by ending this shutdown and putting everybody back to work and having them compensated for the work they do day in and day out, especially air traffic controllers.
Nick, a blunt question for you. As the shutdown drags on, are you worried about flying, and are you flying now?
I actually flew in this morning out of DFW after getting to see my daughter for a brief few hours, and back here in Washington, D.C. to kick off this week. Flying safe, but it's safe because of the hardworking men and women that do this job 6 days a week, 60 hours in that week, only 4 days off in a month. They're operating with the lowest staffing that we've had, only 10,800 controllers, where there should be 14,633. They're working on unreliable equipment, and they show up every single day to do an amazing job. But what we have to do is ensure that they're protected as well. And this risk is building in the system where their focus, where they have to be 100% of the time, that their focus is shifting to, how do I survive next week when I don't have any money? Do I put it on credit cards? Do I have to try to take a side job? And that's completely unacceptable, not only for the air traffic controllers, but for the flying public as well, to know that's another stress added to the system.
If you have members that are working extra jobs, in other words, driving an Uber, what does that say about the stress that is on them in terms of getting sleep, getting rest?
It's unacceptable. This government spends millions of dollars in air traffic control to talk about the reduction of stress, to talk about the reduction of fatigue, to talk about taking out distractions from the workplace. This government shutdown thrusts all of those into the forefront for an air traffic controller, and yet we still ask them to do the impossible. Check your emotions at the door. Somehow come into work and don't worry about the idea of, getting off of your night shift, trying to catch a few hours of sleep to get up and go do Instacart or whatever, gig job that they may have out there. Because ultimately it's gonna come down to, do I put food on the table, gas in the car to be able to drive into work, be able to pay off these bills and my creditors? Because I promise you, despite people saying you'll get paid eventually, it doesn't pay the IOUs of today.
Hey, Nick, what is the cutoff? When does it become unsafe to fly because there aren't enough controllers in the tower? And doesn't the public have a right to know what that cutoff should be almost on a daily basis?
That's our job, is to be here as, the labor and the workforce of this country, is to ensure that we communicate the issues that are out there, to ensure that we say if there's not a reduction in traffic happening, but safety is our forefront, especially of every person that steps on an aircraft, knowing that we're doing everything we can to ensure that their safety. And that means if this drags on, I'll help people know. I don't think the American public would be shocked to hear this, is people won't be able to live without money as this continues to go on. The issues are not going to be something that we've dealt with before. If we're talking about this lasting for weeks on end, or if even the idea of months beyond that, the level of issues that we'll contend with will have to be mitigated. Many times that's going to be in the reduction of traffic, but rest assured, every air traffic controller, each and every day, is trying to find a way through this to ensure that every time you step on that plane, you can have the full confidence that you're in the amazing hands of what they do day in and day out.
Nick, if an air traffic controller has to decide which is more important, going into the control tower or staying home to watch a child because they can't afford childcare anymore, which decision do they make?
It's going to be one of those things that we have to contend with. And it's a question that, like you said, is going to be on the forefront of every single person's mind. if I can't pay for childcare and no one's going to watch my kid, it's going to actually be us working with the employer to say, how would you like us to mitigate this? What would you like us to do today? And what's the best way that we can handle the situation? We're going to have to work through these issues together because they're going to be a reality. They're going to not just be that singular issue. There's going to be a multitude of them, and something that we've never seen before. And that's why this shutdown needs in now. We shouldn't have to ask that question. And I know the American people don't want their air traffic controllers having to call their employer and say, what could I do? I just got to this facility. I have a newborn child. I'm new to the career field. Do you want me to feed the, be able to afford a formula for the child? Or should I put gas in the car to come to work? That's something that no employee should have to deal with, or the employer shouldn't have to tell them how to mitigate as well. So if we end this shutdown, we can be out of that.
The president said some of these workers may not get paid, may not get that back pay. If that happens to air traffic controllers, what happens?
We haven't had any indication that our controllers won't receive back pay as it's associated with the law, contract, or otherwise. There has been discussions with the Secretary of Transportation, the FAA, and that's one of the things that we know that will happen is the air traffic controllers will be compensated for the work they do. The reality is them having to somehow get to that moment, and that is unacceptable to talk about as well, that we're somehow having a discussion day in and day out of how long can people last without money being front page news.
Final question before I let you go. Does it matter that members of Congress are still getting paid while they are working for free? Your guys are working for free. Does it matter?
I will tell you that anybody who's doing any level of work or any job should be compensated for it, and anything other than that is going to be a level of unacceptable. People go up and sign contracts with their employers to do a job and to receive compensation. My job isn't to point the finger at the person that's receiving the pay for the job they're doing. My job is to advocate for the people who aren't getting paid for the job that they're doing. So this shouldn't be a blame game of pointing fingers back and forth at one another. What it should be is the realization of the issues that this is bringing forward for the hardworking men and women that don't deserve to be thrust in the middle of this tug-of-war game.
Nick Daniels is the president of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association. Nick, thank your guys for their service, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me, and I'll pass it on.